Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star based on novel. So let's start. All the top great beings in Universe Ocean knew how important that powerful inheritance from the ancient civilization was. They were all looking forward to great beings from their side satisfying the requirements for solving the Rhinoceros Emperor game. At this moment, the life or death corridor inside Universe Boat in the Boat of Mausoleum in Flame Ice region was the most important silent battlefield in Universe Ocean. The inheritance of Duandong River might be able to decide which power was able to transcend incarnations and become another holy land. Luo Feng is only at an advantage temporarily. We still have a chance. That's right. As long as we can meet the basic requirement in that certain period of time, we'll have the chance to receive an inheritance. We need to grasp the opportunity. This is an opportunity of a lifetime. We'll risk our lives for it. All the powers had gone mad. They didn't think of getting the inheritance immediately in a short period of time. It was unrealistic. Instead, they wanted to meet the basic requirements for Rhinoceros to have a chance of getting an inheritance. As long as there was a chance, there was a possibility. The familiar voice came in the quiet life or death corridor again. Everyone, including Luo Feng, who was covered by the palace giving out blurry light, looked up. They saw a figure. Duandong River. Duandong River has shown up again. Everyone was excited. Luo Feng looked at the figure, frowning. He had met the requirements already, so Duandong River hadn't shown up for him. Blue blood from Eastern Emperor Holy Land has met the requirements, Duandong River said, looking down at a handsome man from Eastern Emperor Holy Land. There were leaves and vines around his body. He couldn't help being excited. All the great beings looked at him. Luo Feng also noticed the great being, Blue blood, from Eastern Emperor Holy Land. He frowned. Huh. He's a Universe Knight. I'm a Universe Knight. And the second one who met the basic requirements is also a Universe Knight. He could tell the power of this Universe Knight. Within Eastern Emperor Holy Land, Universe Masters stood in the front, followed by Universe Knights, while Undying Fighters were protected, standing at the back. Besides, Blue blood didn't have strong godly power. He was only a Universe Knight, with a life gene level of 1,000 times. A Universe Knight. A Universe Knight meets the requirements after the human Milky Way. There are 7 Universe Supreme Masters, and almost 200 Universe Masters here. That Milky Way Horde leader is a peerless Universe Master, yet this Universe Knight is only a mediocre one. Even he succeeded. How so? Everyone was shocked. Duandong River pointed to the indistinct figure beside Blue Blood Knight, and the blurry palace covered Blue Blood Knight, too. The palace was golden. It was the same as the one protecting Luo Feng. Keep comprehending. Duandong River smiled. The more you solve the puzzles, the more beneficial it's going to be for you. Keep comprehending and don't worry about others. You have my techniques to protect you, so nobody can hurt you. I've set the rules already. Duandong River glanced around the great beings present. Everyone who satisfies the requirements will be protected by me. Anyone who dares to make attacks against them will be eliminated and killed. Blue blood, keep going, Duandong Master encouraged him. Okay, Master Duandong, said Blue Blood Knight. Duandong River disappeared. A Universe Knight is taking the lead. Second True Master was furious. Did he actually solve the puzzles faster than me? A Universe Knight is taking the lead. Many were infuriated. On the contrary, great beings from Eastern Emperor Holy Land were all excited, especially Blue Blood Knight. He even glanced at Luo Feng. Apparently, he wanted to compete with Luo Feng. Luo Feng took a look and thought, I'm the first one to meet the requirements. However, I'm only at an advantage by a small margin. Duandong River will look at lots of other aspects if he wants to find a candidate. I need to solve more puzzles. According to Duandong River, the more puzzles someone solves, the more likely they will get an inheritance. So much pressure. The human race had placed their hope in him. He was already at an advantage, so he couldn't let up. Universe Ocean, Eastern Emperor Holy Land. Blue blood. Blue blood met the requirements. We sent a large group of Universe Masters, Universe Knights, and Undying Fighters. Yuzon should be the one solving the puzzles fastest, as he had solved 1,200 of them, yet he still hasn't met the requirements. Blue blood just finished the 1,000th one, but has already met the requirements. There were hundreds of Universe Masters, and several Universe Supreme Masters in a hall. A blurry green light showed up in the sky above the palace. Ancestor. Ancestor. All the great beings bowed. The blurry light looked down and said, "It seems that Duandong River has different requirements for great beings of different power levels. Tell the Undying Fighters and Universe Knights from our race to work harder, so that more of them can meet the requirements." Yes. Yes. The green light disappeared. The great beings looked at each other, and they were all shocked. The ancestor of Eastern Emperor Holy Land rarely showed up, however. Not only did he send a great number of great beings to Duandong River, he showed up in the palace, which showed how much Eastern Emperor Ancestor valued the inheritance. Though Blue Blood Knight was only a Universe Knight, he was a Universe Master to be, and his willpower was at Universe Supreme Master level. He can solve the puzzles very quickly. We should have sent more Universe Master to be there. That's right. We should have sent more Universe Masters to be. Universe Masters to be were special Universe Knights. Eastern Emperor Holy Land had existed for an infinite amount of time. If there were 10 Universe Masters born in every universe era, there would be more than 10,000 Universe Masters. Why were there only a few Universe Masters? Because the Holy Land couldn't contain that many Universe Masters, just like a patch of earth could only nurture a certain number of plants. If there were too many plants, the land wouldn't be able to withstand them all. A miniature universe couldn't nurture Universe Supreme Masters. It could only birth Universe Masters. Also, a small universe couldn't hold an unlimited number of Universe Masters. Every Universe Master was a huge burden to a small universe, and when it hit the limit, the number couldn't increase. Otherwise, it would be harmful to the Holy Land itself. Which was why some Universe Knights, who had already finished law comprehension, and could become a Universe Master at any time, couldn't get any godly power from the Holy Land universe origin. When a Universe Master died, one of the Universe Masters to be would be selected to become a Universe Master. They had lived for a long time. Some of them had lived for more than 100 universe eras, which was why they had extremely powerful will. The 800th year, after Luo Feng began studying the Rhinoceros Emperor game, Duandong River showed up again. Remote snow from the second universe era has met the requirement. Duandong River looked down and stared at a candidate from Bug Race. What? An Undying Fighter. Only an Undying Fighter. Even Undying Fighters can meet the requirement. Everyone was shocked that the third one to meet the requirements was an Undying Fighter of the Bug Race from the second universe era. Up. Duandong River pointed at remote snow, and suddenly, a blurry palace surrounded remote snow. Time flew. One candidate after another met the requirements, and soon, the powers understood that there were different levels of requirements for great beings of different power levels, as none of the 7 Universe Supreme Masters met the requirements. The first one was Luo Feng. The second one was a Universe Knight. The third one was Undying. The fourth one was Undying. The fifth one was a Universe Master, Yuzon from Eastern Emperor Holy Land. And up until then, 2 from Eastern Emperor Holy Land had met the requirements. It had been 1,100 years since Luo Feng had met the requirements. The 6th one was a Universe Knight. The 7th one was a Universe Master. And he was Luo Feng's acquaintance, Dear Bug Master. Almost 3,000 years passed. In the life or death corridor, one blurry palace after another covered the candidates who made the cut. 62 candidates had met the requirements. In fact, from the 2000th year onward, many candidates met the requirements. For example, Peng Gong Master had met the requirements already. Yet none of the 7 Universe Supreme Masters had met the requirements. Duan Dong Master showed up again. It was common for Duan Dong Master to show up. Everyone looked up to see which power had met the requirements. Tai Bu Demon Master from the First Universe era has met the requirements, said Duan Dong River. All 7 Universe Supreme Masters in the life or death corridor shuddered. Gosh! Finally, a Universe Supreme Master has met the requirements. All the great beings looked to him. It was too harsh. Finally, a Universe Supreme Master succeeded. Those Universe Supreme Masters felt both excited and despondent. Nearly 3,000 years. One great being after another who was weaker than them had succeeded, yet none of the 7 Universe Supreme Masters had succeeded. They thought there was no hope for Universe Supreme Masters. Finally, Tai Bu Demon Master had succeeded. 63rd. Universe Supreme Masters need to solve 2,000 puzzles. Tai Bu Demon Master had strong mixed feelings. The 64th one. The 65th one. The other candidates in the life and death corridor might have been slower in speed of comprehending the Rhinoceros Emperor game, but with the passing of time, the number of great beings reaching Duan Dong River's expectation was increasing at an alarming rate. One by one, golden shadow palaces were appearing within the life and death corridor. There were already many of these scattered all over the place. Candidates within the life and death corridor would occasionally carry out discussions secretly via voice transmissions. The time given to decoding the Rhinoceros Emperor game is unexpectedly long. From the looks of it, Duan Dong River is intent on gathering more candidates for his heir. The number is now close to 70. True. After all, an heir not only requires the ability to comprehend. There are other areas to consider. Even if Luo Feng may be at a slight advantage now, it is no cause for worry. Our East Emperor Holy Land already has 9 who have met the baseline requirement. Moving forward, we will gain an even greater advantage. After all, studying the Rhinoceros Emperor game was an extremely tedious and difficult process. It was almost like a continuous soul attack, which was why, based on the difference in their willpower, most of these great beings would take a break from time to time, although the length of time taken for their breaks varied. Within the virtual universe, there are 69 who have already met the expectation. Primal Chaos City Leader, who was seldom worried, started to show traces of anxiety. And the more time that passes, I believe the number of candidates will also increase. Given this rate of development, Luo Feng's advantage will gradually shrink. What should we do? We want to get hold of the inheritance, yet our chances are continuously lessening. 8 Universe Masters and Huge Axe Creator had gathered. The 8 Universe Masters were all high-level leading figures of the human race, like Darkness Master, Void Gold Master, Deserted Mirror Master, and Qing Dong Master. Although they were all at different places, be it Tilted Peak Sector or Universe Boat, and not at the Boat of Mausoleum, they were constantly concerned about everything happening at the Boat of Mausoleum. Everyone knew that this round of inheritance was a silent battle. This battle would determine who could transcend the reincarnation era and determine the owner of the Third Holy Land universe. Stop getting frustrated over this. Huge Axe Creator laughed heartily and added, "It is pointless for us to fret over this. Let Luo Feng comprehend at his leisure. As for us, let's take our minds off this by going on other adventures and roaming elsewhere. If we simply stare on aimlessly, what if this inheritance lasts for 10,000 years, or even longer?" True. But all right, all of you should get back now, Huge Axe Creator said with a wave. Among the individual planes, with fog winding around them, there were many stone pillars, and every one of them bore a 3-dimensional virtual shadow. Luo Feng and the man in the white robe, Teacher Origin, were in the same space, but of course, Luo Feng was not the least bit aware of Teacher Origin's presence. The first 2,000 stages are so tough. Luo Feng was standing before the 3-dimensional virtual shadow of the 2000th endgame. It had been 3,000 years, and during this long period of time, there were other candidates who had subsequently managed to meet the baseline requirements. This had definitely dealt him a certain amount of pressure, and he also started to understand Duandong River's intentions. Apparently, Duandong River did not wish to place all his bets on Luo Feng for the time being. This round of inheritance. Since I am already in the lead, I must work things to my advantage and make this inheritance mine. Luo Feng was very resolute. Since I started studying secret techniques and Rhinoceros Emperor game through a compare and contrast method, my speed of comprehension has obviously become much faster. After he had decoded the 1000th endgame, he had started a new studying method. 80% of his time was spent studying the Rhinoceros Emperor game, while 20% of his time was spent on studying the secret technique of the 9th Deep Abyss, with occasional sessions put aside for honing his willpower. Indeed, according to the feeling he had, the secret techniques and the Rhinoceros Emperor game did share a common point. Upon comparing and contrasting the two, Luo Feng was able to gain more understanding, thus increasing his speed of comprehension. The previous 1000 stages took him 500 years. If he went by his normal speed, then to successfully decode the first 2000 stages, he would need a time period that was 10 times longer, or even more. Yet now, he only took 500 years, which was 5 times the original time, to quickly succeed in decoding the first 2000 stages. Seems like this Luo Feng. The man in white robes looked toward Luo Feng from a short distance away, smiling as he nodded in approval. Soon, he will be able to finish decoding the first 2000 stages. Given his comprehension, his fundamentals, to be able to create a combination of strongest techniques will not be difficult for him at all. How impressive! The man in white robe was full of compliments for Luo Feng. Probably most of the other candidates within the life and death corridor did not know this, but Teacher Origin, upon spending 3000 years studying Rhinoceros Emperor game, after adding on 10,000 times of accelerated time velocity, which would make it 30 million years, had come to know more than them. Rhinoceros Emperor game was highly demanding on one's ability to comprehend. Was highly demanding on one's ability to deduce. In short, if one was able to understand the Rhinoceros Emperor game in depth, then the law of comprehension, law of studies, and creating secret techniques, and such would no longer be difficult tasks. From the looks of it, most of the candidates had now managed to break through and meet the baseline requirements, but that was merely the first bottleneck. The bottleneck for undying godly souls, the first 500 stages. The bottleneck for universe knights, the first 1000 stages. The bottleneck for universe masters, the first 1500 stages. The bottleneck for universe supreme masters, the first 2000 stages. Great beings with high aptitude would have no difficulty breaking through the first bottleneck if given sufficient time, just like how every universe supreme master is able to find a path that is unique to him, to create his own miniature universe. Universe supreme masters have strangely high abilities to comprehend. So long as enough time is given, every single one of them will be able to decode the first 2000 stages. The man in white robe was aware of this point. Yet that was only the first bottleneck. The second bottleneck requires a length of time that is calculated in multiples of 10. Every period of time required would be calculated in terms of 10 times. Or when moving forward, it might be impossible to achieve a breakthrough no matter how much time is used up. For instance, a universe master who was studying the 1998th stage. He was unable to decode that stage. Then given 10,000 years, 100,000 years, 1 million years, or even to the extent of one reincarnation era, he might never be able to decode that stage. Because he had reached his limit. Unless his basic ability to comprehend underwent a fundamental change. This Luo Feng passed the first bottleneck so easily. Now, he has already reached the second bottleneck. The man in white robe nodded quietly. And, at such a fast speed, obviously this is still far from his limit. Indeed. Indeed, he is the most hopeful one in becoming the next universe supreme master. If he manages to get Duandong River's inheritance this time, I believe there is a great possibility of him transcending a reincarnation era in the future. The man in white robe could not hold back a smile. All these years, he had been here studying Rhinoceros Emperor game, so every move Luo Feng made did not escape his eye. And which virtual shadow Luo Feng often studied was no secret to him either. He was very clear of the rate at which Luo Feng was improving. Luo Feng had accepted the inheritance for over 3,000 years. There was dead silence in the life and death corridor, as numerous golden shadow palaces were scattered about randomly. There was also an ocean of candidates surrounding these shadow palaces. These golden shadow palaces represented the great beings who had met the baseline requirements. A familiar sound rang and resonated deep within every great being. All the great beings raised their heads. Must be the 70th one now. The 70th one to meet the expectations. Who can that be? It must be from our primal universe, right? It can't always be the first reincarnation era and two holy lands. Must be from our second reincarnation era. One by one, everyone was silently speculating. Apparently, great beings from the two holy lands and first reincarnation era had dominated a majority of the candidates who had passed the baseline requirements. The second reincarnation era and primal universe were on the losing end, with fewer representatives. I am delighted. Duan Dong River's voice sounded. What? Every great being felt a tremor rumbling through their hearts. Even those few who were sidetracked studying the Rhinoceros Emperor game had to stop for the time being to look up. Delighted. Duan Dong River was delighted. Such an event was unprecedented. Duan Dong River, suspended in mid-air, was smiling as he looked down at the dense crowd of close to 100,000 great beings from various clans looking up at him expectantly. Duan Dong River announced with a smile, human form Milky Way has broken through the second bottleneck and reached a whole new level. An uproar surged. Everyone turned to look at Milky Way Horde leader, Luo Feng, who had almost been forgotten throughout the long years. Rise. Duan Dong River pointed afar. At that moment, a crystal pillar appeared with a kakaka sound from the ground beside Luo Feng. When that crystal pillar had fully emerged, its surface started to radiate a dazzling red light. The hazy red light converged with the golden light ray palace from before, and then, the entire light ray palace dazzled with two hues of lights, red and golden. The golden red palace enshrouded Luo Feng. Luo Feng was also slightly taken aback. This was the differential treatment for someone who had met the requirement. Right? He had just decoded the 2000th stage, but still. Luo Feng was shocked. The other groups were even more shocked, and all found it hard to understand. Originally, they had thought that even after meeting the requirement, everything would maintain the status quo. But from the looks of it, everything was different. I have said before. Duan Dong River looked at all the shocked expressions of the candidates and said, the more stages decoded, the more advantages gained, and this will bring more benefits when accepting the inheritance. All of you have passed the first bottleneck, and are considered to have met my baseline requirement. Of course, that is merely a baseline requirement. If you can't even meet that, then you certainly have no right to advance. As for breaking through the second bottleneck, like the human Milky Way, Duan Dong River started to elaborate, even for all of you candidates, you all can be categorized into 4 different levels. Let me come up with 4 names for these 4 levels. They will be the peripheral candidates, elite candidates, core candidates, and heirs. Those who have previously met the requirements are merely considered the peripherals. Those like the human Milky Way will be considered as elites. 1 level up will be the core. And further up by 1 more level, one becomes an heir. Then there is no further need to compete further. I, Duan Dong River, will hand over my inheritance right away. Duan Dong River looked toward the 7 Universe Supreme Masters. The 7 of you have long ago bred your own miniature universes. All of you have very strong powers, so naturally, you all have to deal with a higher bottleneck. For you all, so long as you can decode up to the 6000th stage, you can obtain the inheritance right away. Of course, I guess that the possibility of any one of you who wish to break through and reach the 4th bottleneck to become an heir within my expected timeline, or to directly move on to decoding the 6000th endgame is extremely, awfully low. Which is why you all have to work even harder at decoding. Those who have decoded more At different levels, the inheritance that you all get in contact with later on will also differ. For instance, now, the chances that human form Milky Way have to obtain the inheritance is greater than you all by 10 times, or even 100 times. Unless you all achieve your breakthrough to the second bottleneck soon as well. Work hard. Silence. Every great being present understood. So, this was how it would be. The number of stages decoded, more or less, really did make much of a difference, and a very fundamental one, too. Decoding more would even enable one to directly gain the inheritance, without having to progress through all 4 levels. And then, all the other great beings would be considered to have failed and be eliminated. The first bottleneck, the second bottleneck, the third bottleneck, the fourth bottleneck. If one could not even make it past the first bottleneck, then elimination was the only result. Elimination, in other words, meant annihilation. This sent everyone into a state of discrete anxiety. Especially knowing that Luo Feng had broken through the second bottleneck. They were left in solicitude. The second bottleneck. Luo Feng quickly quelled his heightened emotions and started to think calmly. The first bottleneck is the first 1,000 stages, the second bottleneck is the first 2,000 stages. Could it be the third bottleneck is the first 3,000 stages? That means, breaking through the first 4,000 stages, I can become an heir right away. Primal Universe Human, Yang Chun. Requirements met. East Emperor Holy Land, Zi Wei Kai. Requirements met. Duandong River stood at the front of the corridor, where he had, unexpectedly, remained for a long time. The number of those who had reached the first bottleneck had entered a stage of explosive growth. In the blink of an eye, it had shot past 100 and was still soaring. Seeing how the others were passing the first bottleneck one after another, Luo Feng was not at all bothered. He continued to follow his own method of studying the Rhinoceros Emperor game at his leisure. Time passed. In the 3,900th year since Luo Feng had accepted the inheritance, the number of life forms breaking through the first bottleneck grew the fastest. After that, the rate gradually slowed down. At the start of the 5,200th year, there was not a single being who was able to pass the first bottleneck. Is this your ultimate limit? Duandong River shook his head and said coldly, only 298 of you have managed to break through the first bottleneck. Luo Feng, who was being enveloped by the palace radiating red and golden light rays, opened his eyes and nodded discreetly. For the Rhinoceros Emperor game, it did not necessarily mean that the more time spent decoding, the more stages would be decoded. Many undying godly spirits present at the corridor had limited potential. Some universe knights might never be able to achieve a breakthrough in their entire lifetime. Those who just wanted to pass the first bottleneck had certainly found it to be an extremely difficult task. At that moment, out of the 298 beings who had passed the first bottleneck, the 7 Universe Supreme Masters had all met the challenge. All the Universe Masters had reached the first bottleneck, while a few undying godly spirits and a handful of Universe Knights had met the requirements. Of course, Luo Feng was the only one who had reached the second bottleneck. Duandong River suddenly looked in a certain direction, then smiled with a nod. East Emperor Holy Land Blue Blood has passed the second bottleneck. It seems like this time around, the ones with the highest hopes of receiving the inheritance of the pulse of my Duandong River will be you and that human Milky Way. You have to try your best. Do not slack off. Blue Blood Knight bowed. Understood, Lord Duandong River. At the same time, a crystal pillar emerged from the ground of the corridor right beside him. The crystal pillar was bursting with light rays, combining to form a red palace and a golden palace. The red and golden beams radiated, then moved over to enshroud Blue Blood Knight. The combination of red and golden rays was in harmony with Luo Feng's red and golden palace in the distance. Luo Feng gave a slight frown. Blue Blood Knight, Luo Feng softly chanted to himself. Blue Blood. Blue Blood Knight. East Emperor Holy Land's fate is in your hands. The Universe Masters from East Emperor Holy Land were all overjoyed and excited. So long as one of them, no matter who, could get that inheritance, that would almost be the same as the entire Holy Land owning it. Blue Blood Knight also smiled at the great beings around him. This inheritance would be the greatest opportunity in his lifetime. It would change his destiny. Prior to this, he was always considered ordinary among the countless great beings of East Emperor Holy Land. He was only a member of the group of Universe Masters to be. Because there was a limit to the number of Universe Masters that East Emperor Holy Land Universe could accommodate, when so many Universe Masters coexisted in a same Holy Land, those who belonged to the group of Universe Masters to be would never be able to achieve a breakthrough. They would never be able to receive provisions from the Holy Land Universe origin to achieve a breakthrough. From Knight to Universe Master, the amount of godly power being consumed was alarming. Without the provision from the origin, this transition would not be possible. He, Blue Blood Knight, had gone from an awkward Universe Master to be to a most sensational, high-position status within the whole East Emperor Holy Hand, and all of it had happened in such a short period of time. He had surpassed any other Universe Master or Universe Supreme Master. Even East Emperor Ancestor had made a personal appearance to meet him to give him words of encouragement. The Rhinoceros Emperor game has already proven your potential. This time around, even if you do not receive the inheritance in the future, you will still receive the best training from my Holy Land. Do not feel stressed. Just try your best. If you perform well enough this time around, your potential is boundless. I shall not hesitate to help you at all costs, to help you become a Universe Supreme Master, or even to help you transcend a reincarnation era. East Emperor Ancestor's promise had long set Blue Blood Knight's desires ablaze. The burning passion that had lain dormant for so long was ignited once again. He felt as though he was back in his years as a youth, that period where he could go on battling, filled with that fighting spirit. Becoming a Universe Supreme Master. I thought only the primal universe was able to breed Universe Supreme Masters. Could it be that Ancestor had a way, too? That must be it. Duandong River left an inheritance of his pulse, so naturally, he wanted his descendants to continue to cultivate and elevate his inheritance. If even a Universe Supreme Master cannot achieve that, it would be ridiculous. If an ancient civilization could have such a technique, then if Ancestor were to pay a higher price, he could probably achieve the same thing. Blue Blood Knight knew that this was his greatest stroke of luck. His chance for a new life. Even if he were to fail, so long as he could prove his potential, prove how promising his potential was, East Emperor Ancestor would be willing to reverse time and space to resurrect him, train him, and allow him to cultivate anew. Success. That Luo Feng means nothing at all. I have kept silent for countless years, for I am not qualified enough to enter Universe Ocean, so I have stayed insignificant and passive, waiting for a chance like this. My one true chance for a new life. I will grasp onto it with dear life. Blue Blood Knight seemed indifferent on the surface, but in his heart, he was in a state of craziness. For such a change to appear before him, he had to hold on to it like a drowning man clinging a life preserver. All his passion would be set ablaze. He would set his whole life ablaze. All his wisdom, all his potential, would burst out at this very moment. In the space of the black-striped stone pillars, the towering, black-striped stone pillars pierced all the way to the topmost, deepest end of the clouds. The entire area exuded boundless oppressive willpower, as if billions of blood-stained, black-armored troops were charging forward with murderous intentions amidst loud roars. This was the place where Luo Feng stayed to hone his willpower. His Mosha body always remained here, in the same spot. The surroundings were free from other great beings, and although the area had 16 black-striped stone pillars, almost every great being would be gathered around the number 2 pillar. There, they could frequently listen to Beikai Star Master's teachings. Luo Feng's location was always desolated and quiet. A single stone would sometimes leave the gigantic rock to float in mid-air, as it slowly drifted toward the black-striped stone pillar, albeit extremely slowly. Kill! 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 Endless roars rang out. The impact of willpower was like a series of tidal waves, exerting oppression over Luo Feng's willpower. Usually, while studying the Rhinoceros Emperor game and secret techniques, his Mosha body would fly over to a gigantic rock in the distance, or even retreat to the borderline region of the gigantic rock. The impact of willpower was smallest there, which would help in blocking out external influences during training sessions. As for honing his willpower, he would do his best to force himself close to his ultimate limit. Under such an ultimatum, he would hone his willpower. This would enable him to be fully focused, as there was no way he could be distracted during cultivation if he was subjected to such a limit. Roar! The stone started to wriggle and transform, changing into a naked man whose skin was covered with complex space secret engravings. Mosha body, if killed under unique circumstances, would reveal its original form, and at this moment, the space secret engravings on the man's skin were returning to their original form. It was the form in which Mosha body was most at ease, without any burden. At this moment, under the ultimate oppression, he had reached the critical point. Mosha body was no longer able to control himself, as he regained his original form. Almost. Luo Feng's willpower was roaring. Roaring with rage. He had a feeling that he was going to break through that ultimate limit. He was so close to a breakthrough that he had never experienced before. I want my breakthrough. Luo Feng's willpower was roaring furiously. Like thunder and lightning strikes. It was as though the endlessly chaotic world had changed into the billions of stars within the universe in an instant, countless living souls. At that moment, Luo Feng's willpower was cheering and jumping with joy. He was feeling delightfully satisfied, like a fish flying out of the vast ocean, or a bird soaring about in the boundless sky. Or a trapped dragon god, who had finally struggled its way out of the shallow shores to fly up to the celestial skies, where it could wander without restraint. This was a bout of willpower that was incomparably powerful, and it was exuded from that naked Mosha body. Ha ha ha, a black robe was quick to gather and cover the Mosha body as he laughed with great pleasure. Advance. Mosha body advanced at high speed and charged toward the black-striped stone pillars, as it continuously forced himself to challenge his new limit. The time velocity continuously soared by leaps and bounds, and it got faster and faster. 12,000 times. When Luo Feng felt that time velocity had reached a rate of 12,000 times, he started to feel the toil. He knew then that he was already quite close to his ultimate limit. I heard Beikai Star Master is strongest when it comes to honing willpower, and where he is, the time velocity rate is actually more than 130,000 times. There is always someone better out there. Luo Feng smiled. Thereafter, he backtracked and flew to a place where the time velocity was approximately 6,000 times before he stopped. The oppressive willpower at this place was merely like a gentle breeze blowing to Luo Feng, giving him a sense of comfort. It held no influence over his cultivation. My willpower is metamorphosing. With the powerful willpower in control of my consciousness, the speed of my deducing and mental abilities will be greatly increased. Studying the Rhinoceros Emperor game will definitely be much faster. Luo Feng was secretly rejoicing. Willpower would be the commander-in-chief. Consciousness would be various generals. Godly power would be the soldiers. The metamorphosis of willpower, be it for cultivation or for battle, always produced greatly beneficial results. At least for now, what Luo Feng felt was that if he were to receive the inheritance of the pulse of Duan Dong River, he could greatly benefit from it in two ways. 1. After his willpower achieved a breakthrough, would have more clout and therefore gain more confidence in receiving the inheritance. 2. His willpower would finally make it past the level of a universe supreme master, and he would gain more confidence in getting that white pair of wings, which had such formidable power, to recognize him as its master. Ha ha! The breakthrough of my willpower is like a dragon rising up into the sky. Luo Feng was overjoyed. After the breakthrough, Luo Feng shifted all his focus and energy into studying the Rhinoceros Emperor game and secret techniques. He decided to take a break from honing his willpower for the time being. What satisfaction! It was obvious to him that now, when he was studying the Rhinoceros Emperor game, he could analyze and comprehend from various perspectives instantly. Numerous inspirations and thoughts would surge and gush in his mind. His efficiency was greatly increased, and the more he studied, the more connections he felt he had found between the strongest secret techniques of the ninth deep abyss and the Rhinoceros Emperor game. Everything worked in harmony to his favor. Plus, his speed of studying was consistently soaring. In the virtual universe, the man in white robes was surprised as he turned to look at Luo Feng, who was not too far away. How long has he spent studying the Rhinoceros Emperor game? Spending 3,000 years, he decoded the first 2,000 stages, yet it did not take him another 10,000 or even another 1,000 years for him to decode the first 3,000 stages. Teacher Origin was taken aback. Because every set of 1,000 games was a new threshold, the difficulty level would soar by leaps and bounds. The first 2,000 stages took him 3,000 years. According to Teacher Origin's estimation, if Luo Feng could complete studying the first 3,000 stages within 30,000 years, that would already be a great achievement and could show his limitless potential, but who knew? The first 3,000 stages. Luo Feng stood before the virtual shadow of the endgame and watched in silence. In Huge Axe's miniature universe, his remote ocean body was trying his best to study and decode. For at that moment, his entire being seemed to enter the absolute peak of his comprehension state, where billions of thoughts were emerging. Various inspirations were colliding, and numerous problems were being decoded. Even some of the takeaways he gained from studying the strongest secret techniques of the ninth deep abyss could be used as reference. In fact, Luo Feng personally felt that if he were to create a secret technique, given his achievement pertaining to diagrams of secret engravings, if he were to create a combination of secret techniques, it should not be such a great feat. It was just that he did not have any time to spare on creating secret techniques. Luo Feng's eyes lit up and then, he smiled. This video will end here.